The city never stopped moving, not even for the broken. Sarah pressed herself deeper into the corner of the bus shelter, trying to become invisible as the evening rush streamed past, a river of pressed suits, designer handbags, and eyes that never quite met hers. She'd mastered the art of disappearing in plain sight over the past 6 months. Ever since the eviction notice, the maxed-out credit cards, the silent phone that no longer rang with calls from friends who'd slowly, politely drifted away. At 24, she'd become a ghost haunting the edges of a life she no longer recognized as her own. The November wind cut through her threadbare jacket, and Sarah hugged her backpack. Closer, everything she owned compressed into 20 pounds of faded denim and broken zippers. Her fingers, chapped and red, trembled as she adjusted the scarf around her neck. A Christmas gift from her mother 3 years ago, back when things like holidays and gifts and family dinners still existed in her world. Now her mother was gone. Her father had remarried and moved to Phoenix, and Sarah was just another face in the statistics, another young woman who'd slipped through the cracks of the American dream. She'd been pretty once. The thought arrived unbidden, accompanied by the ghost of who she used to be: sorority president, marketing major, the girl with the infectious laugh and the 5-year plan. That girl had died somewhere between the hospital bills, the funeral costs, and the depression that swallowed her whole like a riptide pulling her under. The girl who remained was harder, thinner, with eyes that had seen too much and a heart that had learned to expect nothing. The bus shelter filled with the usual evening crowd. Sarah watched them from beneath her hood. These people with homes to return to, dinners waiting, warm showers and soft beds, and the luxury of thinking about tomorrow. A businessman scrolled through his phone, his face illuminated by the cold blue light. A teenager bobbed her head to music only she could hear. A tired nurse in scrubs leaned against the plastic wall, her eyes closed, stealing a moment of rest. No one looked at Sarah. That was the rule of the city. Don't look at the homeless. Don't make eye contact. Don't let their reality contaminate yours. She'd learned this from both sides now. Had been both the person who looked away and the one who was invisible. The irony wasn't lost on her. Then the little girl arrived. She was maybe 6 or 7, with dark curls escaping from beneath a pink knitted hat, her small hand clasped firmly in her mother's. The woman, young, professional, clearly on her way home from work, was absorbed in her phone, typing rapidly with her free hand. But the child's eyes were wide open, taking in everything with that unfiltered awareness that children possess before the world teaches them what not to see. Sarah felt the weight of that gaze and instinctively turned away, pulling her hood lower. She knew what came next. The child would ask a question. The mother would shush her. They'd move to the other end of the shelter. Maybe even wait for the next bus. It was a dance Sarah knew by heart. "Mama!" The girl's voice was clear in the cold air. "Why is that lady sitting on the ground?" "Hush, sweetie." The mother's response was automatic, her eyes never leaving her phone. "But Mama, she looks cold." "Emma, we don't—" The mother finally glanced up, following her daughter's gaze to Sarah's corner. Their eyes met for a fraction of a second, and Sarah saw it all. The flash of pity, the guilt, the uncomfortable awareness, and then the practiced disconnection. "We mind our own business, honey. Come stand over here." But Emma didn't move. She stood there, her Hello Kitty backpack nearly as big as she was, studying Sarah with an intensity that made something twist in Sarah's chest. The child's face wasn't filled with disgust or fear, just curiosity and something else, something that looked almost like recognition. "She looks sad, Mama," Emma said softly. Sarah's throat tightened. When was the last time someone had truly seen her? Not the homeless woman, not the problem to be avoided, but her, the sadness, the person still existing beneath the layers of grime and failure. The mother shifted uncomfortably, pulling Emma closer. "Emma, please!" But Emma had already slipped her hand free, before her mother could react, before anyone could stop her. The little girl walked directly to Sarah's corner. She stood there, small and fearless, her brown eyes locked on Sarah's face. "Are you okay?" Emma asked. Sarah's voice came out as a rasp. "I'm fine, sweetie. You should go back to your mama." Emma tilted her head, considering this. Then, with the devastating honesty of children, she said, "You don't look fine. You look like you need a hug." She paused, glancing back at her mother, then returned her attention to Sarah. "I think you need a hug. Can I hug you?" The bus shelter had gone quiet. The businessman had looked up from his phone. The nurse's eyes had opened. The teenager had paused her music. Even Emma's mother had frozen, her phone forgotten, watching this moment unfold, with a mixture of horror and something that might have been wonder. Sarah stared at the little girl, at the open face and outstretched arms, and something inside her cracked. When was the last time someone had touched her with kindness? When was the last time she'd been hugged, held, treated like a human being deserving of comfort? She couldn't remember. The tears came before she could stop them, hot tracks down her cold cheeks. "You don't want to hug me, honey?" Sarah whispered. I'm dirty. I probably smell bad. You should." "I don't care," Emma said simply. And then before Sarah could protest further, the little girl stepped forward and wrapped her small arms around Sarah's neck. It was awkward and brief, this hug from a stranger's child in a bus shelter as the city rushed past. Emma's jacket was puffy and warm, her hair smelled like strawberry shampoo, and her embrace was fierce and genuine and completely unhesitating. She held on for 5 seconds, maybe 10, and in that span of time, Sarah felt something she hadn't felt in months, human. When Emma pulled back, she was smiling. "There," she said with satisfaction. "I think that helped." Sarah couldn't speak. She could only nod, tears streaming freely now, her whole body shaking with the force of emotions she'd kept locked down for so long. It wasn't just the hug, it was what it represented. Someone had seen her. Someone had reached across the divide that separated her world from theirs. Someone had chosen connection over comfort. Emma's mother had moved closer, her phone now pocketed, her expression transformed. She knelt down beside her daughter, and when she looked at Sarah, there was no disconnection in her eyes anymore, just presence, attention, the painful awareness of seeing another person suffering. "I'm Rebecca," she said quietly. "I'm sorry. She shook her head. "My daughter is braver than I am." Sarah wiped at her face with her sleeve. "It's okay. I understand. I used to—" She stopped, overwhelmed. Rebecca reached into her purse, pulled out her wallet. "Please, let me—" "No." The word came out sharper than Sarah intended. She'd gotten money before. Handfuls of bills thrust at her with averted eyes. Charity that felt more about the giver's conscience than her humanity. "Thank you, but I don't want—" "Then let me buy you dinner," Rebecca interrupted. "There's a diner around the corner. My bus doesn't come for another 20 minutes. Please, let me do this. Let Emma do this." Sarah looked at Emma, who was nodding enthusiastically. Her whole face lit up with the simple joy of helping. How could she refuse that face? How could she reject this offering of dignity? This invitation back into the world of people who ate in restaurants and sat across tables from each other? "Okay," Sarah heard herself say. "Okay." The three of them left the bus shelter together. Woman, child, and ghost slowly becoming solid again. The diner was warm and bright, with red vinyl booths and the smell of coffee and frying bacon. The waitress gave them a look when they walked in, her eyes lingering on Sarah's appearance, but Rebecca met her gaze steadily, and the woman simply grabbed 3 menus and led them to a booth by the window. Sarah ordered soup. Her stomach had shrunk and she knew she couldn't handle much. But the tomato soup with grilled cheese arrived and she ate slowly, savoring every spoonful while Emma chattered about her day at school and Rebecca listened, occasionally catching Sarah's eye with a smile that said, "This is okay. You belong here. You're welcome." They talked, hesitantly at first, then more freely. Sarah told them about her mother, about the medical bills, and the loss and the way life could fall apart faster than anyone believed possible. Rebecca listened without judgment, without offering platitudes or solutions, just witnessing Sarah's story with the respect it deserved. When they finally left the diner, Rebecca pressed a business card into Sarah's hand. "I work for a nonprofit," she said. "We help women in transition find housing and employment. Will you call me, please?" Sarah looked at the card, Rebecca Chen, program director, and felt a flicker of something she'd thought was dead. Hope. "I will," she promised. Emma hugged her again before they left, just as fierce and unhesitating as before. "I'm glad I met you," the little girl said. "Me too, sweetheart, me too." Sarah watched them walk away, Rebecca's hand once again clasping Emma's, the two of them disappearing into the flow of the city. She stood there for a long moment, the business card warm in her pocket, feeling different somehow, less invisible, more possible. 3 months later, Sarah sat in a small apartment with her own key, her own bed, her own chance. She had a job interview tomorrow, courtesy of Rebecca's connections. She was seeing a therapist, attending support groups, slowly rebuilding what had been destroyed. The road ahead was still long, still uncertain. But for the first time in forever, she could see it stretching forward instead of just collapsing behind her. On her refrigerator, held by a magnet, was a crayon drawing Emma had made for her, two stick figures hugging beneath a smiling sun. Underneath, in careful child handwriting, "Hugs make everything better." Sarah looked at it every morning and remembered that November evening, that moment of grace in a bus shelter, that small brave girl who'd had the courage to see her and the love to reach out. Emma had been wrong about one thing: hugs didn't make everything better. But sometimes one hug at the right moment could change everything. Sometimes one gesture of kindness from an unlikely source could remind you that you were still here, still human, still deserving of love and second chances. Sometimes all it took was a child's wisdom to remind the world what really mattered. We all need each other, and we're all just waiting for someone to see us and extend their hand.